All right. Hello, everyone. Thanks for joining us today for this important, exciting webinar. We have our hosts, representatives from Focus on Energy, Sophia and Phil. Thanks for being here. For today's session, Phil and Sophia are going to guide us through new incentive programs focused on reducing the cost of energy efficient lab cold storage. And they're also going to touch on some rebates for efficient food service, water heating, and HVAC equipment. So just some housekeeping items before we dive in. Make sure that your microphones are muted. We're going to try to avoid any background noise. You can submit your questions in the chat box or raise your hand, and then we'll have a dedicated Q&A session at the end to address as many questions as possible. We're recording the webinar so that we can replay it for those unable to stay the full time or those who have been unable to join us that have registered. So once again, thanks for being here. We're excited to share this with you, and we look forward to a productive session. Without further ado, Phil and Sophia, I'll hand it over to you.
Great, thank you.
Yes, thank you so much, Macy. Hi, everyone. Good afternoon. Great to be with you all today. As Macy mentioned, we'll speak today to how to enhance sustainability and profitability in your lab space, office space, and etc. So we'll talk through how to leverage energy efficiency rebates, and Phil will also touch on some non-rebates, some sort of behavioral mechanisms as well that can help promote sustainability and save you money on your bottom line. So my name is Sophia Showalter. I am an energy efficiency project manager. So I manage programs and projects in the energy efficiency space for utilities and government clients primarily. And today in this capacity, I'm here as a representative of Focus on Energy. And I'll talk more about who and what Focus on Energy is in a moment here, but I will quickly pass it over to Phil to introduce himself first.
Thank you, Sophia. I come from the life sciences market. I've had about 10 years of experience, particularly with lab cold storage, CO2 incubators, shakers, various other lab equipment. In my role, I work nationally with developing some of these incentive programs, like the one that we're going to be discussing today on behalf of Focus on Energy. I handle most of the field outreach, and I'm the key point of contact for Focus on Energy's life sciences programs.
Great. Thank you, Phil. Okay, so going through a brief agenda, as I mentioned, I'm going to give a quick intro on who and what Focus on Energy is. Then I will pass it over to Phil to talk through the life sciences program and available incentives on life sciences cold storage equipment. And then I will finish things off talking through the instant discounts program, which is Focus on Energy's newest program offering for energy efficient food service, water heating, and HVAC equipment, all of which are typically found in an office or commercial building space and thus likely applied to this group as well. So, introduction to Focus on Energy. Focus on Energy is Wisconsin Utilities' statewide energy efficiency and renewable energy program. So if you don't know, there are 120 utilities in Wisconsin, and every utility, every state really approaches their offerings differently. And in Wisconsin, I would say we're all pretty lucky to have this group of Focus on Energy, because rather than each of these 120 utilities coming up with their own programs that have specific requirements and rules and individualized incentives, rather than trying to deal with that, we can work through Focus on Energy, of which 107 utilities participate in the state of Wisconsin. So that's making up the vast majority of the state is covered by Focus on Energy, and they provide streamlined offerings. So those requirements and incentive levels do not change based on where in the state of Wisconsin you are located. So to that end, Focus on Energy helps Wisconsin residents and businesses manage their rising energy costs by providing education, information, and incentives. The Focus on Energy group promotes in-state economic development, and it helps to protect our environment. And ultimately, one of the key goals of Focus on Energy is to control Wisconsin's growing demand for electricity and natural gas and make sure that all of us and residents of Wisconsin are able to efficiently utilize our energy systems and thus avoid paying extra when we don't need to and avoid emitting carbon emissions when we don't need to. So Focus on Energy mission is to empower the people and businesses of Wisconsin to make smart energy decisions with enduring economic benefits. And that is really what Phil and I are going to be talking about today at the crux of it. So with that, I am going to turn it over to Phil to talk about the life sciences program specifically.
Thank you, Sophia. So there are a number of ways to make your lab more green, but the area we're going to be discussing today is going to be lab cold storage. So that includes lab refrigerators, typically you store at about 0 to 4 degrees centigrade, and freezers -20, -30, as well as ultra low temperature freezers. The ones at -80 typically used for long-term sample storage. Have been getting a lot of attention over the last few years, primarily due to their massive energy needs, as well as their abundance in the lab space, and of course it's equipment that is in operation 24/7. One hopes. Prior to there being an Energy Star standard for ULT freezers, as well as refrigerators and typical lab grade freezers, which came out a few years back. Inefficient older ULTs could typically use as much as 20 to 25 kilowatt hours per day, so about as much power as your average US household. Since most labs require at least 1 or 2 ULTs, and then when you get into the level of institutions or biobanks, many of them have hundreds. This results in massive operational costs in terms of energy, HVAC demand, and increased demand on the utility grid. So roughly about $1,000 per year for some of these models. And now if these older models are in use long past their typical end of life, or they're improperly maintained, that can push that daily energy consumption all the way up to 30 kilowatt hours per day. Their compressors are working harder to compensate for air leaks, degraded insulation, so on and so forth. And of course, we have the hidden costs beyond just the energy bill. For the plug load, there's the HVAC impact. These inefficient models, they kick out a lot of waste heat. So not only are you seeing increased plug load, which is much more straightforward for quantification, but you're also seeing an increased HVAC impact. So you're seeing more expense just to maintain that acceptable ambient temperature, which in the lab space you're going to want to keep very consistent, especially to get ideal operational efficiency out of your freezers. And now we can contrast that to newer models that are using as little as about 5.5 kilowatt hours per day. And of course, this is ubiquitous. Every single life sciences lab and healthcare facility is going to require some kind of cold storage. If you go to the next slide, please. So as you can see, these are some quotes that I pulled together. The impact of this has been studied across multiple organizations. Cost of ownership for energy consumption on these ULTs, it can be significantly greater than the initial purchase price. And then, of course, this is all capital equipment. So the price tag can be a significant hurdle if you're going with more premium energy efficient models. And this is where we come in. We're bringing this midstream rebate in through Focus on Energy to lower that barrier for purchasing and for end users. Next slide, please, Sophia. Thank you. So what we do and how we approach this is through something called a midstream rebate, which you may or may not have heard of before, but they do go by many names. They can also be called incentives, instant discounts, utility rebates. But at the end of the day, what the goal of these programs are and these incentives are is to make these energy efficient products more accessible by offsetting the cost to the end user at the time of purchase. I'm sure some of you have worked with Focus on Energy or a utility company in the past, developing proposals for custom projects and receiving some kind of incentive based on what the deemed energy savings are as a result of that project. Now, these are more proscriptive. So we've already assessed the cost and energy impact of direct lab cold storage, different lab cold storage devices, and we work directly with the vendors to provide that savings at the point of sale. So you're not going out of pocket for that additional amount you would be getting back. That's actually taking off when it's being quoted and when it's being invoiced, and we're handling all of that on the back end with your suppliers. So that means the money never leaves your pocket. You don't need to submit an application. There's no lag in reimbursement. We handle all of this with the supplier, and they put this on your quote when you're making your purchase. And now, why is this great? Some labs might not be able to receive a rebate, especially if you're, say, an academic lab that's making a single unit purchase using some grant funds. They're actually able to take advantage of this. It's not just for these purchases of 10, 20, 100 units. Of course, those large orders are still eligible. Healthcare sites that might have tighter funding or a tight budget that may not be able to afford that extra amount and get it back afterwards can leverage this program. It's available to commercial customers in territory where utilities participate in the Focus on Energy program, and as Sophia covered earlier, that includes the majority of the state of Wisconsin. So that includes everyone, large and small. It's a very equitable approach to providing these incentives. And we're ready for the next slide, please. And like I was saying, one of my favorite things about these programs, they benefit everyone. Your organization is benefiting from an upfront reduction in purchase price, and which also makes it easier to hit your sustainability targets. And it also shows you that lower operating costs. The end users benefit because they're able to purchase equipment that is not only more sustainable, typically more reliable, and it's more premium models, and it helps them achieve any type of Green Lab certification. If they're participating in the freezer challenge, it's a great step in the right direction. Of course, the utility benefits as it eases demand on infrastructure, which reduces the need to build additional power plants and additional infrastructure. Oftentimes the question we get is, well, why does the utility want to spend money reducing the amount of energy people are using, right? That's the product they sell. Well, at the end of the day, it's cheaper to support a program that lets folks purchase more energy efficient equipment for a few million than spend billions developing new power plants. And of course, those costs will always have a way of trickling down. So this also helps keep utility rates constant. And then, of course, we have the environmental impacts, which typically will benefit everybody. And on the next slide, we can look at what the lab cold storage program incentives looks like. So for lab grade refrigerators, which includes ones that you would use in healthcare as well as the lab space, you're looking at a discount per unit between $600 and $1,200. Your smaller models from 6 to 25 cubic foot, you'll receive $600 for. 25 to 44, you'll receive an $800 discount, and anything above 44 cubic foot, the large models, you're getting about $1,200 back for. And then, of course, lab grade freezers, the smaller 6 to 22 cubic foot models receive a $600 discount. Anything above 22 cubic foot is $1,200. And then any Energy Star ultra low temperature freezer, you're going to be receiving a $1,200 incentive for. And then, of course, the secret to this is just being able to discuss it with your supplier and you making sure they know about it, which we can talk a little bit more about. Next slide, please. So the really cool thing is, we know that people typically have a choice and preference when it comes to their supplier. And the great thing is we do have a lot of major brands that are either eligible for or participating in this program. We know out of all the products in the life sciences, ULTs are a very emotional purchase. If someone's had a negative experience with the brand or versus a positive experience with the brand, no one wants to get that call, on a Friday night that they have to come in and clear out their freezer and relocate their samples. So we have basically a ton of major manufacturers participating. So we have your Fisher brand, your Thermo, your Sterling, your PHC, Lab Repco brand, Helmer, Farrar, essentially all the major suppliers are going to have a product that is energy efficient, that is going to be eligible for this rebate. And ultimately, the way to participate is to just talk to your supplier and say, hey, I know this is eligible, this is available through Focus on Energy. What products do you have that qualify? Next slide, please, Sophia. Thank you. So just to summarize, the way this program works, the vendor is able to provide an instant rebate as a discount on your eligible equipment. And it's going to be up to $1,200 per unit. There's no paperwork required on your part. All the eligible units are pre-qualified. They come through Energy Star certification. Units that are installed at sites receiving power from any Focus on Energy utilities are going to be eligible. So that includes Madison, Milwaukee, the major sites for biotech development, goes all the way up to Green Bay. I believe some sites in Eau Claire are also eligible. But yeah, there's the majority of the state of Wisconsin, and of course, we can always check for you to ensure that your sites where the units are being installed are in an eligible area. And the beautiful part is this can be combined with other discounts. If your supplier is running promotion, it can stack with that. If they're participating in the bio savings program, you're getting special pricing through BioForward. You can stack that extra incentive on top of that, which is really, really exciting and really, helps you to lower your operational costs while still coming in under budget for capital equipment costs. Next slide, please. And then, of course, there's other things that you can do to lower your overhead and make sure that your freezers are running at peak efficiency and you're getting the longest lifespan you can out of them. Freezer defrosts are something that happens rarely and is often overlooked, but that should be happening annually, clearing out your samples, defrosting your freezer. That is also a great time to discard any older or unneeded samples. One of my colleagues used to call them UFOs, unidentified freezer objects, anything that may have been left in your freezer by a previous researcher, someone who's no longer at your institution. You have some samples, sometimes racks, sometimes almost an entire freezer full that may not be labeled and no one knows what it is. Well, if it's not something that's needed anymore and not identifiable, it's usually best to discard. Cleaning the air intake filter at the condenser, that's something that should be done monthly, as well as routinely removing ice buildup from door gaskets. That's something that should really be done on a weekly basis. If you see ice building up on your door gaskets, it's not going to seal properly. Your compressor is going to work harder, so you're going to see a spike in energy usage. And because you've got that air leak with your freezer, that air outside of the unit is always going to be more humid than the air that's inside of the unit. So that humidity, as the air cools, will condense, it will form ice, and the problem will literally snowball. That can make it harder to actually shut the door of your freezer. And if your PIs are struggling to shut the door, they're going to put their door handle in their freezer out of alignment, and it's going to just exacerbate the problem. It's going to make it worse, and you're going to see more of that air leakage, more of that snow buildup. So it's best to just nip that in the bud by ensuring that any ice buildup is routinely removed. And of course, you want to be able to minimize your door openings, keep access time low. The longer that door is open, the more air is going to get in the freezer. It's not great for your sample integrity. You're going to see that frost buildup, and that's something that you definitely want to avoid. You're going to see a recovery time because the ambient temperature is going to warm up in your side of your freezer. And then, of course, you can do all these. You can actually get on a really great schedule with these by participating in the annual International Freezer Challenge. It is a free competition that is offered by My Green Lab. It typically launches, I believe, in January each year and runs through July. It's not too late to sign up either your lab or your organization for the 2024 Freezer Challenge. And they acknowledge and award participants who can based on the amount of deemed energy savings that each organization creates through this. So it's a great way to get some recognition for the steps that you're taking to be more energy efficient throughout your organization. And of course, another great way is, we've got a list of participating products. You can view it on the Energy Star site. Choose energy efficient freezers to standardize on. Box some of your purchasing in that maybe have a short list of the top performers for energy efficiency, and then decommission any older units and begin working on replacing your oldest models with more energy efficient Energy Star products. All right. Do we have any questions on this topic? You can please submit them via the chat. Of course, if you have any follow-up questions, please feel free to reach out to me via email as well if something comes to you after our presentation.
Yeah, we'll have time for Q&A at the end as well. Definitely, if you prefer to just come off mute rather than through the chat. Thank you so much, Phil.
My pleasure. It's all yours, Sophia.
Right. So I'm just going to finish things up talking through the Instant Discounts program. Again, this is an offering through Focus on Energy. So 107 of the 120 utilities in Wisconsin take part and pay into this program. And that means that the vast majority of folks located in Wisconsin, whether it's a residential or a commercial building, have access to this program. So what is the Instant Discounts program? First, I'll start off by saying it's modeled very, very much like the Life Sciences program. So it is also a point of sale incentive given as a discount off of your purchase of high efficiency food service, water heating, or HVAC equipment. And I'll give some examples of what that equipment looks like in the next slide. So similar to what Phil went over, because this is a point of sale discount program, there is no paperwork or applications that you as the end use customer need to submit. We actually work further up in the supply chain. So we are working with distributors and equipment dealers and their manufacturers to make sure that this energy efficient equipment is available to you all so that it is stocked and readily available for replacement on burnout situations, but also maybe new construction situations or custom projects. So because we're able to work higher up in the supply chain, the distributors are typically going to be submitting the rebate applications and you as the end use customer do not need to worry about that, which is really nice and a difference from our traditional rebate structure where there's a mail-in rebate. You might think of Energy Star dishwashers or washer and dryers when you go to Lowe's or Home Depot. You might see something about submitting paperwork, but in this case, all of that is done for you. So secondly, as I've mentioned, this program, Focus on Energy, it is sponsored by 107 utilities. So through ratepayer dollars, all of us, by paying our utilities, there's usually a small surcharge on each of our utility bills that goes towards ratepayer programs. So all of us actually pay into these programs already. So that's just one other reason to contemplate taking part. It is some of your money that funds these programs. So the Focus on Energy Instant Discounts program is sponsored by our utilities, but there's no need for you as the customer to directly coordinate with your utilities. You don't even need to provide your utility service account number. All that you need to know and provide to your distributor is the name of your utility. If you're purchasing lab cold storage equipment, which is all electric, you would just provide the name of your electric utility. And if you were purchasing gas, food service, water heating, HVAC, you'd provide the name of your gas utility in Wisconsin. And that's really all that you need to do, besides telling your distributor where the equipment will be installed, which would be a typical part of the purchase order process anyways. And lastly, all of this boils down to you do not need to wait. There's no waiting to receive the rebate or the incentive. It is at the point of sale. It's a negative line item, just like if you were to purchase food on sale, you would see that sales discount applied on your receipt. And that's exactly how this program functions. The distributor is providing that incentive to you at the time of sale, and then they work with us in the background for reimbursement. Okay, so what equipment is eligible? On the water heating side, we have both gas and electric options. So heat pump water heaters are electric, and we also have tankless, indirect, and storage water heaters, which are all gas products. Then we have commercial food service equipment. So I chose a few here that are very typical for a commercial office space, such as ovens, refrigerators, and freezers. But we provide incentives on a ton of different food service equipment if your business provides more of a full service cafeteria or something of that nature. There would be multiple incentives for tons of different food service equipment that might be pertinent to you and your business. And then lastly, here we're offering incentives on HVAC equipment. These incentives are actually launching on June 1st, so just about a week from now, they will be available. Again, both gas and electric equipment. So we've got boilers and furnaces, but also electric heat pumps and mini multi-splits. Those are all eligible. So that's just a little bit of an overview. And on the right-hand side here, you can just see some of our flyers. So we also have a bunch of marketing materials or just additional information on the program. I'll provide my contact information at the end here, and I'd be more than happy to send any of that over to you if interested. So who is eligible for instant discounts? I'm going to skip to the last bullet point here first, actually. So as you are maybe coming to understand, I know I've said it a couple of times now, as long as you as the customer are located, your building is getting service from utilities that participate and focus on energy, which is the vast majority of utilities in Wisconsin, then you are eligible. So residential customers, whether single family or in a multifamily apartment unit, are eligible for this program. But more importantly, for this group, our businesses and commercial industrial customers are all eligible as well. So as you can see listed here, it really runs the gamut. There's no exclusions for types of businesses. Okay, so this is very similar to the process flow that Phil went through, but maybe just presented in a different way that might be more helpful if you are sort of a visual learner like I am. So that first step in this process is, as the customer, you reach out to your distributor or equipment dealer. Now, you may have a preferred dealer and distributor who you work with in the past. In that case, it would be great to just ask them and confirm, hey, do you participate in the instant discounts program? Since we work with the market actors directly, our distributors, in fact, do need to enroll in the program. They are the folks enrolling in the program. So we just want to make sure that they are eligible before inquiring about high efficiency equipment. If you have a preferred distributor or dealer who isn't enrolled, then that would be a process for them to just reach out to our team to focus on energy, and we would be more than happy to set them up. And it's a pretty quick process. We give them a bit of training, get some marketing materials, but then they would be ready to offer you those incentives. Otherwise, we have lists of participating distributors. So those who are already enrolled, they're available on Focus on Energy's website, and otherwise I can send them to you directly. So first step, reaching out to that participating distributor. Second, the distributor will confirm that you as the customer are eligible, and that is based solely on your install address. Again, we just want to confirm that the install address is serviced by one of the participating utilities for Focus on Energy, which 9.5 out of 10 times will be the case. But we just are going to do that quick extra check to make sure. Third, your distributor will confirm that the equipment is eligible. So on the program side, we provide our distributors with something called a qualified products list. And that's just a list of every model for the different product types that is eligible to receive incentives. So the distributor has access to that list. We can also send it to you if you have any interest. Depending on the product type, it's quite long. But in general, your distributor will be able to help shepherd you through that purchasing process and ensure that you select a model that meets your needs, whether that's on sizing, efficiency requirements, the bells and whistles, and then they will just double check that it is eligible for the program. Okay, so fourth, the distributor will sell the equipment to you, end use customer, with the instant discount applied to the purchase order or the sales invoice at point of sale. So I talked about that before. That's that instant discount negative line item. Step 5, and this is when it's really, at this point, step 4, you as the end use customer are done. You've received your instant discount. Your equipment is either coming home with you or being shipped to you. And once it is installed, you'll get the advantages of lifetime energy savings by having that more high efficient equipment installed with lower operating costs. But for the distributor, we have an additional step. They will then submit a claim or an application for the incentive that they provided to you, and they will submit that to Focus on Energy. And then Focus on Energy and our program team will approve that claim and reimburse the distributor for the instant discount that they gave to you at the point of sale. So that is how the process works from end to end. And what are, this is really, I think this is my last slide. So what are the benefits of energy efficiency equipment? At the end of the day, it helps your organization use less energy and can reduce your utility costs over the lifetime of the product. So this can help you to meet individual or organizational sustainability goals, provide additional cost savings so that you can put your budget elsewhere and make use of it, so help to stretch that budget. It also will typically result in more comfortable spaces. A lot of our high efficiency equipment comes with additional sort of non-energy benefits, is what we call it in the industry. So they will help provide thermal comfort, for example. Energy efficient kitchen equipment, it uses less energy, which means it produces less heat. So typically we think of commercial kitchens as these super hot environments, and they are. And by utilizing energy efficient equipment, we can help to reduce the amount of heat that builds up in the kitchen, creates more comfortable spaces for the chefs, for the kitchen workers. And it also can improve emissions that come out of equipment, right? Especially if we're using gas equipment, there is emissions coming out into our ambient air, and using high efficiency equipment will help to reduce that emission that ultimately we might be breathing in. And lastly, longer product lifetimes. High efficiency equipment is generally more durable, just a little bit nicer than your standard equipment. We're using nicer components, and ultimately that does typically result in longer product lifetimes. Okay. Oh, I guess I didn't provide my own email, but that's okay. This is actually probably best. So if you have any interest in food service, water heating, or HVAC incentives, you can reach out to Instant Discounts at focusonenergy.com. And I believe we will be providing these slides afterwards. I guess, Macy, I should have double checked with you first there before I said it, but we definitely can provide them to you. And otherwise, more than happy, if you do reach out to Phil because you're interested in the cold storage incentives, and you also have interest in the instant discount incentives, you can happily just reach out to Phil and he can provide all of that information in one place. Similarly, if you reach out to Instant Discounts and are also interested in the life sciences equipment, we can get you that information as well. Okay, so that is it for the slides. I'm going to stop sharing now. Thank you all so much for your time and attention. And we have, it looks like 25 minutes for any questions or comments that come up from the group. And otherwise, if questions come up later, you're more than welcome to email us.
Yeah, great, super helpful information. While people start, if there are any questions getting thrown into the chat, I can kind of kick us off just by asking, how long can we expect this rebate to last? Is there ever an end date? Do I need to do this, by the end of 2024? What does that look like?
Such a great question, Macy. Definitely a frequently asked question. So these programs are contracted right now to go through the end of 2026, and they will hopefully be extended at that point, but definitely we should have these rebates available through the end of 2026. And I saw Phil go off mute, so Phil, I'll pass it to you for any additional comments there.
Oh, I think you pretty much nailed it, but I mean, it's always better to take advantage of these sooner rather than later, because they do have specific, funds allocated to these programs. And while it is unlikely for them to run out, it has happened in other programs in the past. So I would recommend taking advantage of them sooner rather than later.
Does that go for both the instant rebate program and the life science program through the end of 2026?
Yes. Yep. That's for both. And instant discounts just launched. So to Phil's point, highly unlikely that there's any budget issues, but if there were, we work very closely with the market, the distributors and manufacturers, to let them know about budget constraints that are coming up that may impact their ability to add the instant discount to a purchase order, to a quote. But we're doing pretty well. We're doing great on the focus on energy territory. So I would say that's a very low concern, but all the same, why wait to get the benefits now?
Sure. Awesome. I don't see any other questions in the chat, so I'll ask another one here.
And actually, just to chime in on that last point, there are some changes coming to Energy Star for life sciences equipment for 2025. They're revising the specifications and the qualifications, so it is going to favor the most energy efficient equipment, but there will be a shakeup in qualified products for 2025, although the program will still be continuing.
Okay, good to know. And where can we stay informed with those new, when that rolls out, or if there's any other initiatives? Is there somewhere that we can go to keep an eye on what's ahead for focus on energy, and what's changing?
Absolutely, and we'll be maintaining a qualified product list for that for life sciences. And if you're just curious as to what currently qualifies in terms of models of lab grade freezers and refrigerators, that's all listed on the Energy Star website as well. You can also, of course, ask your supplier which models they offer that currently qualify.
Mm-hmm. Great.
Yeah.
So as far as, oh, sorry, go ahead, Sylvia.
Oh, you're great. Thanks, Macy. So I'll just add, because we typically are working with the market actors in this program model as a midstream program, we don't direct quite as much communications to the end use customer. So at the end of the day, working with your distributor is the best way to make sure you have the most up-to-date information, because on our side, we are doing the most to make sure that the market actors have all of the most up-to-date information and know exactly what's going on in terms of eligible products, any changes and incentives that might be coming up, budget, etc. So yes, definitely will recommend you all to talk to your distributors first. And otherwise, the email addresses that we provided, you can definitely reach out to us for any individual questions, and we're more than happy to help.
Great. Is there any feedback that we can provide you guys as we start, as we take advantage of this program? Is there anything we can do, as you're also BioForward members? Is there anything that we can do to help collaborate with you guys?
That is a great question, Macy. And one moment, I'm just checking what we got in the chat here. Okay, Okay, great. So that's a separate question. So to your question first, Macy. So, sorry, I blanked for a moment here. Can you repeat that? Just give me 2 buzzwords.
Yes, how can we provide feedback to you?
Thank you. Okay. So we welcome feedback. These programs are designed to meet the needs of the customer. So on the life sciences program, we are very honed in on life sciences customers, whether that means you work in academia, in biotech, in pharmaceuticals, healthcare. So some things that we are more, would love feedback on are the types of products that we offer incentives. Is that meeting your needs? Are there product types that you are looking to purchase for that you do not see available incentives? So that would be one area where we appreciate feedback. The ease of use of the program in terms of how it goes, working with your distributors, that's another thing. If you have any concerns or maybe a great story to share, whatever it is about the ease of use of the program, we work with Focus on Energy to provide them, we run the program for them, but we also help design the program. So if there are aspects of the program design that are not working for the customer, then it's on us to do our best to work with Focus on Energy and make those changes appropriately. So anything around how the program functions for you, how you interact with your distributor, how you receive the discount, we appreciate feedback there. And ultimately, kind of your drivers as the end use customer, what are your drivers to consider high efficiency equipment? I would say anything around there that we can help speak to, market to, shift our offerings to meet those needs. For example, I see Michael Harrison's talking about ways to report to investors. So that's a great example of one way in which we hear, okay, customers need to be able to translate the high efficiency equipment benefits to investor facing reports. How can we help them do that? So that's the type of, any of that feedback is appreciated and something that we will take into consideration and work with Focus on Energy to try to implement.
Great, thank you.
Bill, did you have anything to add there?
I would just jump in and say that this is outside of what we do with Focus on Energy at the moment, but you could look into Green Lab certification offered by My Green Lab, or the Labs 2.0 program offered by I2SL, and both of those are designed around a holistic approach to lab sustainability beyond just energy. They're looking at water, they're looking at plastic waste, that sort of thing. So similarly, if you look at something like the ACT label in your purchasing, which is something else that My Green Lab does offer, it's mostly it looks at the total environmental impact of different types of products, from the small consumables all the way up to larger equipment. And it's something that they've been discussing with different purchasing organizations, right? That allows you to quantify what the Scope 2 and Scope 3 emissions look like for your purchases.
Yeah, thanks, Phil. I think that's a great segue into this question we received in the chat. So I'll just repeat it here. So from Michael Harrison, companies are often looking at ways to report to investors and partners on environmental and social responsibility. Does Focus on Energy offer any ratings or reports that companies can share to show their investment in energy efficient equipment? So that's a really great question. And I mean, first, I think I'll point to what Phil just said, that there are organizations outside of Focus on Energy that offer that certification and would take into account capital equipment that you purchase using the Focus on Energy incentives. Do I have that right, Phil? Yeah.
Yes, correct.
Okay. So certainly there are those third-party groups, and if you want more information, Phil works with both of them closely, My Green Lab and I2SL, so can provide that information. But outside of that, I'm going to take a note on this question, and I'm going to circle back with focus on energy. I don't know off the top of my head if they offer any ratings or reports. I know that as a program implementer, we will create reports typically to the market actors, showing the amount of energy savings that they've provided to their customers. So for us, at least, it would be a small lift to be able to provide some of those figures directly to the customer or to the customer through the distributor. So we certainly know the energy savings that you would receive from your purchase of qualifying equipment and could provide that information. But otherwise, I will take note of this question, and assuming I get some response, I will forward it on to Macy, and it can get it over to you. Michael, thank you for that question.
Great. Any other questions from if anyone wants to come off mute if there's a question? Otherwise, thank you both. Really great information. I'm really hoping that we can, our members can use this as they begin to, swap in and out equipment and things like that. So I'll just do a quick plug for some of our members. If you are interested in joining the BioSavings program, which you can again stack those rates, feel free to reach out to myself, to Corrine Featherston as well, and we'd be happy to talk more about what that looks like as far as getting you signed up. We also are hosting our annual BioSavings customer luncheon on August 14th, and that's another opportunity where you can come and connect with our Fisher reps as well, and they can talk more about that program. Other BioForward events coming up is our annual Wisconsin BioHealth Summit. Registration is just around the corner, so be thinking about that. That'll be October 28th and 29th of this year. And this year it's going to be at the Monona Terrace. So for those of you who are known for us being at the Overture Center, we're switching things up on you. So stay tuned for that in our newsletter. I'll send out a recap of everything we talked about today, including Phil and Sophia's contact information, any important resources that they've mentioned. I'll get those out to you guys, as well as the link to the recording. So I'll let everyone log off. Have a great rest of your day. Thank you again, Phil and Sophia.
Thank you, everybody.
Thank you all. Have a great rest of your day.
Bye, everyone.